Will you please give a big welcome to Mr. Frank Mundo?
Alright, I'm going to read from my new book, The Brubury Tales. It's a modern version of the Cadbury Tales in Los Angeles with security guards. Wow, the foreword is written by my favorite LA writer, Carolyn C. So this part is the general prologue.
Right, one second. Let's get you a little tighter to the line.
Okay, all right.
So they can hear you a little bit better.
All right, how's that?
Yeah.
So this is the general prologue, the introduction. When in April it has again rained, and the drought of March has again sustained another year of our eternal spring, then old Santa Ana begins to sing at that fiery yet most familiar tune. How Los Angeles always feels like June. Smoggy skies and this endless summer day. Our seasons change by the sports that we play. The boys of summer always dodge the fall, so it's a good thing we have basketball, because our Rams and Raiders sneaked away, and the Kings make our winters cold and gray till the madness marches throughout the spring, and the Bruins and Trojans do their thing. Not that we all pay attention too much. In LA, we're pretty well out of touch from one community to the other. Neighbors are strangers to one another. The west side is busy running the store, and the east side is the west side's eyesore. The south is the center of civil war between the LA cops and the gangland poor. The north is a place I can't say much about. Whenever I go there, I get kicked out. But none of this serves the matter at hand. This prologue's bore what the scholars demand. Setting the meter, framing the poem, this part is not for you readers at home. That having been said, I'll really begin with the names and descriptions of all the men and the one woman involved in this tale. And I'll begin with Leo, the oldest male. But first, I should probably set the scene. The 7 of us, uniformed in green, all worked at the downtown Holiday Inn on the graveyard shift, which started at 10 and ended at 8 the following day. $8 an hour, no overtime pay from that cheap bastard Donald Brubury, Brubury Sons and Security. Leo Kapitansky, a Russian Jew, was in charge of our security crew. A handsome man for his age, I suppose, despite his large, disproportionate nose. His jaw chiseled sharp like some crime noir dick. His muscular body, solid and thick, combined to create a masculine air, virile and strong as his full head of hair. But Leo had hands like a woman might, small fingers thin with the skin as smooth and tight as the hide of a bongo jump from Spain. Perhaps his hands had been shrunk by the rain that slipped like tears from grandmother sockets. Years spent patrolling, hands in his pockets, smoking and drinking to try and stay warm. 8 years in the army with little harm, thank God, because he was the best of men. May I never see my mother again, if indeed I'm not telling the truth. So what if he cheated on his wife Ruth? After all, none of us is without sin. If I'm wrong, let the rock throwing begin. But Leo was, and he's no different in that regard, but he was one fine security guard. Second in command was Alex Loma, who spent his shifts in sort of a coma, sleeping from midnight to 7:30, snoring and drooling. It wasn't pretty. But he had another job on the side, which is why most of us just let it slide and never complained or molested him. Besides, most of the guys detested him and preferred that he spent his time asleep. Alex Loma was a huge macho creep, an ounce of steak to a pound of pure fat, and that's all I'm going to speak of that. John Schamberger's next, a man without shame. Schamberger, he said, was just a slave name, imposed upon his shackled ancestors by white American dream investors who killed the natives and enslaved the blacks, and then built this country upon their backs. Schamberger had taken classes at school that spoke of the acres and of the mule, promised the families allegedly freed with northern guilt but not southern greed. Bitterness bubbled and shot through his veins. It started to eat away at his brains. It's because I'm black, his favorite phrase. He pulled the race card at every phase of an argument he was losing. His credibility took a bruising with all the time and energy spent on trying to prove O.J. innocent. We argued for so many months on end, and not even once did he break or bend, but I must admit I admired him. The fire inside that inspired him made him always look outside of the box. And although he seemed stubborn and made of rocks, he's one of the best men I ever knew. Over the years, I watched him as he grew. He's a volunteer mentor down in the hood, in Hawthorne, Compton, and Inglewood. He doesn't drink, smoke, or use any drugs. He preaches to pimps and dealers and thugs. The word of the book he keeps by his bed. John promised me that before he was dead, he will have made this world a better place. And I watched as a tear slipped down his face, and I knew right then he already had. But before this tale gets too sappy or sad, I'll get back to John Schamberger later, and move things ahead to Joseph Vader, the next of our group in seniority. Not that rank is a real priority, it's more a practical way to proceed. And Joe Dater was practical indeed. Economic with words and with feeling, often sit and stare up at the ceiling, leaning way back in the chair provided. Rarely ever did he get excited. Born near Manila, circa 63, Joseph dreamed of the land of liberty. But now apparently he was content. He had enough money to pay the rent. He had a car and a nice place to live and a little something left over to give to his local church once in a while. A gift he gave with a wink and a smile. Joe once was a serious Catholic, right up to the day his father got sick and died slowly of cystic fibrosis. Joe's face suffered his father's prognosis, and like many now, he questioned a God who unsparingly failed to spare the rod of the good, loyal sheep of the flock, while the black sheep's profits, barrel and stock, piled up like the Amavoa Mountains. For Joe, it was more coins tossed in a fountain, a deposit for a seat in heaven. Joe's wife worked at the 7-Eleven, part-times on the weekends to make ends meet. Pretty, young, apparently sweet. She cooked like his mom back in Malolos. She spoke English, Spanish, and Tagalog. She let Joe get to sleep during the day, and Joe rarely had anything mean to say of his wife or of their life together. For Joe's wife was as smooth as the weather. But Joe did have kind of a darker side. He once beat a man near death who had tried to proposition him in a sexual way. Joe knew some judo and some karate and used all that he could to clock the man. If there was a God, then it wasn't his plan, Joe felt, to create that type of creature. This by far was his ugliest feature, which I've included for your benefit. With all the details, I feel best befit a fair and worthy portrait of my friends. The means, if you will, justify the ends. My loyalty to them does not affect how I describe them now in retrospect, which is how I must describe myself next. It's only fair, as I'm part of this text.
Frank Mundo, one more time with Frank.